Okay, thank you very much. As she said, my name is Walt Anderson. My company, Avealto, I'm a co-founder, is based in London. I have another co-founder. Both of us have a tremendous amount of experience and background running telecom companies, and the rest of my management team is equally experienced. The problem we're trying to solve is the digital divide, the fact that a very large number of people, estimated over 3 billion people in the world, don't have routine access to the internet. And it leaves them at a tremendous disadvantage. Most parts of the Earth are covered by satellite, but satellites are extremely expensive. And for people in the type of incomes you have in developing countries, it generally puts access to internet out of reach for individuals, most individuals. We've come up with a solution that's been studied in Europe for about 20 years, high-altitude platforms. Studies have all been positive. They've been funded by universities, European Space Agency, and now it's time to actually build one. The change occurred when batteries and solar panels became more efficient. So now it's possible to build a commercially viable high-altitude platform that will provide low-cost telecom service. The platform sits above the weather, above where airplanes fly, at around 18 to 22 kilometers in altitude, and it covers a circle of 240 kilometers. So we need multiple platforms to cover various parts of the Earth, various regions where there are potential customers. This just is a map showing how it would look if we covered part of the Indonesian archipelago. Indonesia has 6,000 populated islands, and some are very large and can link to each other with traditional fiber sea lines, but with 6,000 islands, there's a lot of islands that don't have interconnection and lack telecom other than through expensive satellites. Now, separate from the 3 billion people, the digital divide, we have an existing market of people that are already using satellite services, and that's 20%, that's point-to-point satellite. 80% of it is TV broadcast, which we don't do. But 20% of the market is point-to-point, $26 billion. That's an existing market which Avealto can approach right now, and will be substantially cheaper. So being in the telecom business for many years, I can tell you if somebody comes and offers you a 30%, 40% lower cost on your infrastructure, you take it. The markets we're going to serve in that $26 billion are maritime, mobile backhaul, aeronautical communications, wireless internet service, and we're already talking to a number of countries that are interested in this service. The governments in those countries right now are giving us a lot of cooperation for the regulatory side of flying a vehicle over their territory and operating a telecom service in their territory. This is just a snapshot of what each vehicle, since we're going to run a fleet of vehicles, we're not going to put a vehicle into place unless it's profitable, meaning unless we have enough customers in the zone where we're going to cover. So each vehicle has a much higher margin than most telecom operations. It's outsized margin from all my experience in telecom. So not only will we be providing tremendous benefit to these regions, we'll have a very large margin. The 5-year operational cost, we have a $14 million cost to operate the vehicle for 5 years and $86 million profit, and that's just not a normal profit for a telecom operation. It's much larger. We were founded in 2013 when we realized that the batteries and the solar panels were getting more efficient and it was time to actually build a vehicle. We've done all our R&D, and now we're actually ready to put vehicles in service. We need to build a factory in the UK because there's no building large enough for this 100-meter long vehicle that we're going to build. And the money we're trying to raise now, $15 million, will first go to building that factory and then building the first vehicle. After that, the vehicles will be funded by import-export or aircraft leasing or other things. We're ready to move forward. There are a number of companies in the industry that are talking about building HAPS. We believe we're ahead of them by about 2 years, ready to move forward. Just to compare, HAPS have advantage over satellites other than cost. The primary advantage is we're closer to the Earth, so the latency or delay in the signal isn't present or noticeable. And so we are able to be higher quality as well as lower cost than satellite services. These are two of our competitors. Thales Alenia has announced this product here. In 2014, every couple of years, they have their graphics department draw another beautiful design. So far, they don't have an actual design. They've never flown any hardware. The other is Zephyr. That is real. It's an airplane-type app. It just doesn't have enough payload or power on board to actually provide telecom services. So while the UK government has funded that for military purposes, it's not real practical for a real telecom business. The most unusual competitor is a company called SoftBank. They have a company called HAPS Mobile, and they announced recently that at a HAPS Alliance conference, a group that we're a member of, that they'll be 6 years before they begin service, but they also decided that they wanted the public to fund their R&D. So they're going to raise $261 million that the public will fund the R&D on an airplane-type app, which will never actually work well for telecom. Internet usage is going up rapidly, and it's not going to stop. There's a huge demand all over the world. If even a tiny fraction of the people, the digital divide, the people who aren't connected, decide to connect at a very tiny amount of money, that's another $90 billion of revenue potentially available to Avealto. Avealto has flown since 2013 various bits of hardware. We've tested our solar panels at high altitude on balloons. We had a vehicle that was certified by the FAA for testing, and we kind of tested these things to death. Now we've finalized on that shape, which is the optimal aerodynamic shape. That's a CAD/CAM drawing of the final 100-meter long vehicle. This is a picture of us flying a smaller vehicle in a hangar, largest hangar in the UK called Brabazon Hangar. We were calibrating our autopilot. The UK Civil Aviation Authority has allowed us to use the smaller vehicle to begin the approval process because the avionics on board, the electronics and the avionics, the autopilot will all be the same as the larger vehicles. So we're getting a head start on approval, even though we can't build that larger vehicle until we get our factory building. We have a number of partners, most of them in Europe, a lot in the UK, but others in Europe. And we're ready to move forward. We're looking for $15 million, a tiny amount of money compared to the usual aeronautical investments that people, if we'd done this in the United States, it would have already cost us $30, $40 million. UK is the right place to do it. We have a team of people who are working very efficiently with us. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Walt. We have a bit more time. Do you have questions for Walt? Maybe. Yeah, wait a second, I give you a microphone. Disinfected.
Thank you very much. Rico Della from Swisscom Ventures. How do you manage to have such lower latency as compared to your competitors?
Well, it has to do with distance, the speed of light. Radio signals travel at the speed of light, and satellites are 36,000 kilometers in Earth orbit. So there's a round trip to get a satellite signal. It's a round trip, takes about half a second latency. We're 20 kilometers in the air, and the furthest distance from our customer is about 130 kilometers. So that makes a maximum latency of about half a millisecond, 1/2 of 1,000th of a second. There is latency also built in the electronics. Your mobile phone adds about 30 milliseconds of latency, but you don't notice that. It's so small. Yeah.